Let's just fucking begin. Let's do it. So, Skaggs of Outline and Color. Welcome, dude.
What's up? Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming all the way from Tulsa, Oklahoma, yes?
Yes, sir.
Are you living in Tulsa, or that's just where the band originated?
Both. I've kind of moved around over the years. Like I lived in Vegas for like a year and a half, and I lived in Denver for like 5-6 years, but I'm back.
Cool. This was all pre-Outline and Color, or during the...
During. Outline started in Tulsa. We were all in Tulsa, and then once we kind of got to the point where we weren't like only playing local shows, when we were like touring a bit and stuff, and we didn't have to be centered in Tulsa, I kind of moved for several years. And at the time, like a couple of our members were like living in Portland and stuff, so like I wasn't the only one. We were kind of split across the country.
How do you find like holding up a band being so far from each other? Like,
How
difficult is it? I imagine it has to be somewhat difficult.
It is, and back then I kind of deluded myself and told me that we're like, nah, like, you know, we're making it work. It's totally fine. But now that I've been back in Tulsa for like a year and seen, and part of it is the change in all of our headspace and like how productive we're trying to be. But it's impossible to be as productive as we're being right now when you're thousands of miles apart or hundreds of miles apart.
Right. So what did you find was the challenge of when you guys were apart, that like when you got back into Tulsa, you were like, shit, if I was just with everybody this whole time?
Well, the main thing, aside from just like things getting lost in translation and communication and stuff, it's so much easier to just like talk to people face to face, you know, and in that respect, like everything is insurmountably easier. But the main thing is like financially speaking, back then it cost, you know, hundreds of dollars to, you know, $1,000+ just to get us all in the same room, which proved to be like pretty cost prohibitive for most things. You know, like a lot of times, like now that I'm in Tulsa, I'll just be like, let's do something this week. Let's do a cover. And everybody's like, all right, like we can find the time to do it. But it's a lot harder to do that and to also like motivate other people from, you know, hundreds of miles away. So that's probably been the biggest differences.
Cool. Very cool. So we have a very big fan base within After Hours. We focus a lot on like hardcore and post-hardcore, but we're also a very big reggae rock community, so we have a lot of that. So if you could just describe yourself in like a few sentences for maybe some of the fans that will watch this that have no idea who Outline and Color is.
You know,
Sure.
You spent like 10 minutes just being like, this man is over here. We don't know where he's from. So.
We are, I'd say empirically, we're considered a post-hardcore metalcore band. The newer material that we've been working on is definitely in line with those influences, but we're kind of pushing things in a more rock, pop, hip hop, R&B kind of. I mean, I'm just a more like commercially accessible sound, I guess. But we're trying to stay true to, you know, the sound that we came up on, or we started on.
Right, and you could hear that like with the new EP. There was one song in particular that I was like, yo, like that song reminded me of like 2012, 2016 Outline. Practice What You Preach.
Yeah. That's why that song was on there.
Yeah, I love that song. That's by far my favorite song on that EP.
Thank you. I mean, that song was for the fans, you know. Like, you know, everything we do is for the fans because the fans are what keep us going. But we got started making music because it's what we want to do, you know. And we've all been making music for, some of us, you know, 2 decades now, and we've been making music as Outline and Color for 10 years, and it's just like, you know, look at some other bands in the scene that have been around as long as we have, and very few of them are writing the same exact songs that they were writing when they started, you know. And it's not because like, you know, we're turning our backs on our fans or like, you know, we've changed or whatever. It's just that like we're all older. We've written a lot of angry, heavy songs, and you know, I personally lyrically want to connect with people, and I feel like, you can definitely get people rallied up and excited about an angry song for sure, but it's harder to like tug at people's heartstrings when you're like, fuck this, fuck that, you know.
Yeah.
It's just a different mentality and stuff. But like with Practice What You Preach specifically, and there's actually another song on the part 2 to the EP that's a very similar vibe. You know, we wanted to show our fans that like it wasn't that our sound has changed or that like we're incapable of writing the same kind of music that we used to write. This is a very intentional choice. You know, we've been doing this for 10 years and we really want to make a career out of it. We want to be doing this in 10 years. And I think that the fact that we've made it 10 years already kind of, it kind of coming into 10 years, like really made us be like, wow, we could do this for another 10 years and we're smarter now. Like, you know, or we've made a lot of mistakes and we've learned from a lot of mistakes and we're all adults and, you know, it just kind of, we kind of are starting to see some sustainability in the future and, you know, that's all part of it.
When did you become the vocalist? I know originally you were the keyboardist, I believe.
I've just kind of gone where the bands needed me. I'm like one of the original members. Me, CJ, Austin, and Forrest kind of started the band back in like 2008, 2009. And we were just kind of like a MySpace demo. Like there wasn't even a name for the project at the time. We were just posting demos to MySpace. And
were you the same type of music at the time, or were you a different type of band back then?
Yeah, we were the same kind of music. Some of the songs we were writing ended up making our debut EP. We kind of got to a situation where like the EP was written and we just didn't have vocals for it. And I actually originally tried out to be the vocalist, but it was like I was not very very good back then. And you know, at the time we were seeking somebody that could kind of do like a Matty Mullins kind of thing and be able to sing and scream. And I was primarily a screamer at that point in time, and my singing abilities weren't very developed at the time. So the guys knew me from the scene. You know, we had like played in not competing, but like fellow local bands, and we all knew each other, and we were the guys in our bands that wanted to like step things up to the next level, you know, like we weren't just the guys that just wanted to be in a band. We wanted to like tour and like get signed and like do stuff. And I'm kind of getting sidetracked here. Reel me back in.
Shoot. Oh, now I'm like, wait. I was like so engrossed in the story. I'm like, what did I
the origin of the band and you guys wanting to get signed and to tour and do all of that.
Yeah. So we just we found Jonathan originally through the scene because he was in this band called Head Over Hills, and he was actually like the number 2 singer and guitar player for that band. They were like pop punk, and he just had this crazy range. And I mean, at the time he was like really focusing on his range and just hitting all the top notes, because I was like Sleeping with Sirens and Pierce the Veil and all those bands were really popping off, and that was like the thing to do. And he came in and just like threw some like demo vocals on one of our tracks, and we were just like, but he didn't scream, so we were like, well, this wasn't exactly what we wanted to do, but you're like so perfect that like we want you to do this. And he actually wasn't even like interested. He was like, yeah, I'm in another band, I don't want to be in 2 bands. And we're just like, all right. So like I think we wrote it out on like a fucking napkin or something, and we're just like, we're gonna pay you this much money and you're gonna sing on our EP, and yeah, that's gonna be it. And he was just like, yeah, for sure, I'm down. So we paid him like, you know, it was like $300 or $500 at the time. It wasn't very much money, and he came in and spent a whole day and recorded all the vocals for the whole EP. And at that point,
1 second, I need to step away for 1 second. I'm sorry.
No worries, you're good, dude.
Yeah, his whole him leaving anyway. Oh yeah. So 3 years, $500 was it?
Yes, it was like $300 or $500. I can't remember exactly, but so John came in and he recorded all the stuff, and somewhere along the line we found Trevor, and you know, it was like a similar thing. Like he recorded some stuff like as a demo. Like he was actually friends with the guy that we were kind of co-producing some of our stuff with, and he just came in one day and threw some stuff down. We were like, fuck, like this is awesome. So like we're like, you're in. And John was just like, yeah, whatever, you know, like I'm not really in, but like I'll record songs. And anyway, we put stuff out on MySpace, and it started like popping immediately. And John was like, well, I guess you can put my name on it and let people know that I'm a part of it. And then like shortly after, he ended up joining the band and stuff. But that's kind of how we all like came together. And then we started playing like local shows and stuff. And John had like a really serious girlfriend, and he had a really like a career job. And we grew quickly to the point where we wanted to start touring and stuff. And that just like wasn't really in the cards for John. It was always that way. Like from when we started, you know, John was always like kind of a hesitant, like I want to be a part of it, but I'm really overcommitted already. Right. And so we found Casey as someone that would be able to fill John's shoes and then be able to start touring with us and stuff. And that's kind of what brought us to that whole era of the band.
Cool. Dude, sorry for stepping away for a second, but I still heard you, and that was a fucking dope ass story. Okay. All about it.
I think your first question before I like got into that was like when I became the vocalist, and that was like
just like the switch over. We saw that you were doing keyboards and then doing bass and vocals, but you're still playing bass.
No, actually, John stepped down. Well, not stepped down. He stepped up to bass. It's like he was already singing everything, and then he's now playing bass and singing everything. So it's like it's kind of mind blowing to watch. But John is playing bass and singing, and I'm actually fronting the band now.
Dude, that's awesome.
Do you like how was the transition being from kind of like not like kind of like not in like the because vocalists, I feel like they're more like in the shining light. They kind of like represent the band, but that's not how I would perceive bands. But I don't like a lot of people.
Sure.
Like the vocalist to be like the front or like the main kind of.
Absolutely. Some people, that's all they see. They only hear this.
Exactly. It was like that transition from going from like a backstage kind of person to like being like.
Totally. Well, it was kind of a weird situation. So like, you know, Outline's been around for a long time, and last year when we were putting out our last record, the self-titled, we got some interest from like a really big record label that we had always wanted to fuck with since, you know, we started. And they came out to one of our shows on the album release tour that we did, and they pulled me and Trevor aside after our set. And they told us some like really weird shit that like really fucked with both of us for a long time. And they basically said like, yeah, you guys are awesome, you two, but the rest of the band, like,
oh no,
whatever.
Yeah.
And they were just like, you know, like you guys have been a band for like 10 years and you guys are really sick, and it's cool what you guys have been able to do, and the numbers that you guys are hitting right now as an independent artist like are respectable, but like we want to see something fresh. So like they kind of encouraged me and Trevor to do something like fresh. So after that tour, me and Trevor started working on this other project where we were going to be like co-fronting. And we were working with this producer in Arizona, and we wrote like 4 or 5 songs together, and they're really sick songs, and we're getting really stoked about the project. And somewhere along the line, Trevor's life got really busy really fast, and it was one thing to be like doing the band thing in one band, but like we were doing like 2 bands, and then he got like in a really serious relationship, and he was working all the time, and it just kind of got to a point where with some of the things that he struggled with in the past and all of those pressures coming together, it was just like a lot for him to deal with at the same time. And you know, I started this like secondary project thing that we were working with some other people that were like kind of affluent in the industry. Like, you know, we were working with like Matt Good. He was producing our stuff, and one of the guitar players from Scary Kids Scaring Kids was writing songs with us. And there's some really cool people attached to the project. And when Trevor started being like a little bit unreliable because his schedule was just so crazy, those guys were like red flags, and they were just like, we don't want to do this. We've done this before. Like, we've all been in a million bands, and like we can't deal with like the flaky member thing. And I had known Trevor for 10 years, and I knew that he was just like going through a thing, and that he was fine, and that things would be okay, but he just like needed some time. But the other guys were just like, if you want to do something with us, like, we're down, but like we can't do that. So that project over the next several months just kind of like fizzled out, and that kind of brought us up to the next tour for Outline, and it was this like really short tour with Capture, but like we left home, we get like an hour and a half from home, and like the van is like fucking up bad. Like, we got some tire issues where like the fucking back of the van is like slapping up and shit. And then like we get like 30 minutes from Oklahoma City, and this fucking tornado storm comes in. It was absolutely ridiculous. Like, water was like coming up like 2, 3, 4 feet. Like we'd get off the highway, because we were trying to drive like to Texas for the night or something. We're going like halfway to Albuquerque or something. And as soon as we get to Oklahoma City, like the winds and the lightning and the rain is so bad, we're just like, we got to stay here tonight. So we pull off the highway, and we hit up some homies, and we're like, yo, we're kind of stuck. Like, can we stay with you? And they're like, yeah, for sure. We don't have power, but like, if you could come here. So we get off the highway, and we're like trying to get there. And I swear, like every like half mile we get, we're having to turn around and like find a new route, because like trees are just like falling over, and branches are in the street, roads are getting flooded out, and like we're legit like going through shit where like water is up to the top of the tires, you know? So shit was crazy, and we ended up missing the first day of the tour because of it. Like, we stayed the night in Oklahoma City, and then we had to get all the shit fixed the next morning, and we met the tour in Austin, Texas, and the show was just like super shot. And we stayed the night, and the next morning we leave to go to Dallas, and we get like halfway to Dallas, or actually no, we were like damn near all the way to Dallas, but like close, like maybe an hour in, 2 hours in, we started realizing there were some issues with the van, but we were just like, we're just going to push it to Dallas, because there's like, you know, potentially we could throw, like, worst case scenario, we could throw it on a wrecker and like send it back to Tulsa from Dallas. So we're just trying to drive all the way into the venue, and we get like 15 miles away, and the van just like shit throws out from underneath the motor. Like, we run over some shit. Like, I don't even know like what the fuck we hit. And there's just like smoke blowing out the motor. There's like oil all over the ground. Like, the fucking van's done. So we pull all of our shit out of the van, put it in the trailer, and Capture pulls up with their RV and like hooks up our trailer, and we just left our van there. Never even went back for it. Like, we just fucking left it. It was like a $2,500 van or some shit like that, and like the motor to replace it would have been like $2,000, and we would have had to freight it back, and it was just like, it was an old van anyway. We're just like, fuck it, we'll just leave it. And not to mention the towing, and you know, it's just a whole fucking mess. So we get to the show, and there's like 2 or 3 more dates left on the tour, but like we're just defeated when we get to the Dallas show. We played the show, and it was a pretty decent show, and fortunately we had some like Tulsa fans that had driven down to Dallas for the show, and they gave us a ride home. And our homies and Light the Fire from Dallas, they held on to our trailer for us like for a couple months, so that like we didn't have to worry about our gear getting stolen and shit. And it was just a really traumatic experience. And you know, like, if you've followed our history at all, you've seen like we've had some pretty fucking crazy shit happen to us over the years, like, and especially with vehicles. And that I think that it just was like especially hard for Trevor at the time, because he was in this place where he was mentally like trying to justify the sacrifice that we make to like be in a band and stuff. And you know, because like none of us can have normal jobs, because no normal job wants to have somebody that's leaving all the time. And so like we had another tour booked for October, and a couple months go by, and everybody's just kind of quiet. And like 1 week before the tour, Trevor hit us up in a Facebook message and was just like, while we were touring with Slaves, and we had Johnny used to be a part of the band, and I won't even get into that, but everybody knows there's like triggers and stuff for people that have drug problems associated with that person. And he wasn't even in the band anymore, but Trevor was just like, that band is a trigger for me, and like I just can't be touring right now. Like I need to focus on my sobriety. And it was just like, it was one of those things where like we didn't even really have enough time to think about it. It was like a week before the tour, and we've canceled tours in the past, and we just didn't think that was like, or like if we're gonna keep being a band, we can't cancel tours. So like we contemplated the idea of flying in somebody to fill in vocally, and at some point we just kind of realized, both like financially speaking and also just like somebody having to learn all the lyrics, and it's like, even if somebody knows your songs, they don't really know your songs until they're like memorizing the lyrics. And I knew everything, and I've screamed in other projects and stuff like that over the years, and we just kind of determined that it would be better for John to pick up bass and for me to cover Trevor for the tour. Mm-hmm. And mind you, like this whole year while we were working on this other project, like my main personal obstacle was finding a way to go from being that auxiliary role, because I was like a high energy auxiliary role, but I was trying to go into like the primary like focal point of the band. And part of that was like finding my own voice, and that was something that I was really struggling with for a long time. I had really good pitch, I had really good timing, but I didn't have like my own voice. Everything that I did sounded like an accompaniment or like a backup vocal or something. And it was something that I was just like racking my brain with the entire year. And I did that tour, and I just got thrown into it where I didn't have time to think about it. Like I just was just like, there are people in front of me, I have to give them what they want to hear. They know these songs. Like I can't like fake this shit. Like I just have to do it. Mm-hmm. And I just really leaned into it. The first couple days were like some of the most terrifying like experiences of my life. Like I was having like panic attacks and stuff. And but like the third night, I really hit a groove, and it was like electricity that like I could like feel through my whole body. And like I felt like a lightning rod on stage, like I was just like the energy was there, and I was just like directing it, and controlling it. And I just like, I realized on that tour, and I always knew, but I just like really like acknowledged it and realized that like that's always where I wanted to be. Like not necessarily like in outline and color, but like I always wanted to be like the voice of something. Like I always wanted to put myself out there in that kind of way, and express myself lyrically in that kind of way. And anyway, like halfway through that tour, we were in this situation where like we had a couple days off, and we were trying to figure out what we wanted to do for him. And one of our good friends, Sinjin, recommended that we hit up our friend Andrew Bayless, which is the guy who produced Imposter Syndrome. And we'd known him for pretty much since the beginning of our career. The first little tour we did was with Life on Repeat, his old band. Mm-hmm. And we were like, let's spend these 2 days off and write a song and just see what happens. And at that point in time, like we weren't even 100% like if like Trevor was out or if he wasn't out, but we were just like, let's just write a song. And if he's in, then like he can just like record parts later. And if he's not, then like we wrote a song. And it went like really, really, really well, like better than any recording process that we had ever had. And it wasn't like the normal, like a couple of the guys working together to make a song and everybody getting to like throw some shit at the wall. It was like everybody got to write a song together, and like we all got to talk about it in real time with no egos. And if somebody was like, I don't really like that idea so much, like nobody wasn't like, it was just like, okay, well, like, what can we do to make you like it more? Or like, do you have a better idea? Or like, let's workshop this. And we just all felt so good about the way that the recording process went that we decided pretty much then and there that we were going to do more stuff together. And that just kind of like set the stage for February when we recorded Imposter Syndrome Part 1 and 2. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of how it happened. It wasn't really like, it was kind of like an accident, I guess. But you know, when Trevor left, it was a big deal because you know he's an original member as well, and he's always been that voice on our records.
Mhm.
But you know, there's three other people in this project that have also been in it almost 10 years, and you know they weren't ready to let it go, and we just kind of sat down, and you know I've always been the kind of guy to go where the motivation is, and go I focus my efforts where other people are also focusing their efforts. And I was just like, you know, I'll make this my focus if all of you guys will make it your focus. And we all kind of agreed then and there that we were going to make a resurgence, and, you know, really everybody put the effort in to make it. And I think that it's pretty evident, like what has happened already, just with like a few months of us having consistent focused energy. And I'm really excited to see what happens in like the months and years to come.
Yeah, and then there's been some awesome reception for imposter syndrome too. Like you got all those Billboard charts. I saw that. I was like, oh my god, congrats!
Thank you.
Was that the
really
first time that, like,
it's not our first time on Billboard actually, but I think it's definitely worth noting that we hit Billboard on an EP instead of a record, which is primarily like normally what we do. And it's kind of crazy because, and granted, you know, like our impression on Spotify has grown over the years, and we didn't always have the platform that we have now. But you know, Imposter Syndrome is our largest first week release to date, and it's on a 5-song EP during a national or an international like crisis. So I'm really excited to see what happens when, like, you know, we can add some touring into the mix and, you know, shit like that.
Yo, I'm impressed that you guys got the reception you did, because like I know there's so many bands that, I don't mean that in a bad way, I just mean that there's so many bands that are holding off on releasing something because they can't support it with shows. They can't tour it. They can't do an
They
album.
want to do like the whole package of like they're like, here's the release, here's like a tour, and here's like our hometown like release. So that's awesome that you're able to like achieve all these kind of like goals and everything with all that's been happening.
Well, thank you. We're super fortunate, and things kind of just fell into place. Like we've wrapped on Imposter Syndrome Part 1 and 2 like 3 days before the lockdown happened, and we're in Oklahoma, so like it wasn't real until the lockdown happened. Like we were hearing about it in the news and stuff, but we were like, now we'll make it here from California. Like, and I mean, that's just like the general mentality here. And so like when Andrew Bayless left from recording with us, like when he hit the airport, like there wasn't any face masks. There wasn't anything out of the usual, you know? And it was like 2 days after that was when everything like hit. And it was kind of weird because we made I mean, it was super weird for everybody, but prior to the lockdown and all of this stuff flaring up, we had made an agreement with a private investor in Australia to like kind of bankroll the promotion and music videos and production and stuff for this release. And we had definitely like planned on touring, but because this guy was so intimately aware of our history, he was watching our last release, and I mean, we didn't do very much touring last year, and we still managed to have like a fairly successful release. So he wasn't too scared about the lack of touring prospects, and it's everybody's dealing with the same thing. So it's not like some bands are touring and we aren't. So we kind of felt like it equaled the playing field a little bit, and because we were like maybe a month or a couple months ahead of most bands that were getting into the like, okay, let's use this time to create and like take advantage of it. We just happened to be ahead of the curve, not just surely out of luck, like, but we were already at the point where our product was done. So when quarantine hit, it was just like, all right, how are we going to release this? What are the ways that we can do to make this different? Like, how can we take advantage of quarantine? And to a certain point, I feel like there's some sort of advantage to releasing right now because everybody's on their phone, everybody's on their computer. Like,
absolutely. I don't know. Dude, I agree. I mean, we started doing all these interviews because of quarantine, right? Like,
yeah, totally.
Going to shows and doing shit like that. where just because we didn't have the access, we were all stuck in our houses, we started doing this. And I agree, like all these bands that are saying like, oh, I don't want to release because we can't support it with a show, like who fucking cares?
Yeah.
Release your music. If
you can still
like
play those songs in a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's exactly my thought. I don't really understand. And I've heard it from small bands, like local bands, to huge bands that you hear about that are waiting. Like, what the fuck are you waiting for?
Yeah.
You know, I just think, and unfortunately, and it goes with the whole theme of our EP, but there's a lot of people in this industry and every industry, but there's a lot of people that want to go all the way, but they don't want to do all the work. And it's like, if somebody's going to give them an opportunity and put them on tour or put them on a label or put them in a situation, they're so down to do that. But like, if they have to put in the years and years of work to make that happen, they're probably not going to do it. And I think that because of that, you got a lot of people right now that are just making excuses. Like I've seen a lot of like bands, like local bands and stuff, like, and everybody's a local band. I don't mean that like as a shot, but like bands that weren't touring when COVID wasn't a thing. And they're like, oh, we can't do anything because of COVID. And I'm just like, man, you weren't doing anything before COVID. Like, no shade. It's just like, you know, like the only thing that gets anything done in this industry is hard work. Like and I mean, I've been doing it long enough to know, like, if you're firing on all cylinders and you're putting in the work every day, like shit happens. Like it always happens. But if you like put in the work one day and then you kind of sit on your ass the next day and you think about working the next day and put in a little bit of work the next day, like, I mean, the efforts just like show in the results.
Yeah. Dude, and people like don't realize that the music industry is not just music anymore. Like social media is a huge influence, and people don't take advantage of that. Like anyone can sit on their phone in their car at a red light and say something for 10 seconds to their fans, and fans will eat that shit up.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I try to respond to every single person, every message, every tweet, everything, and sometimes it gets overwhelming, and I just like simply can't. But I'm like always trying. I'm on my phone way too much every day, but like it makes me think, like, you know, I want it bad enough that like I will connect with every single person, I will make friends with every single person, like, but I don't know, it's weird. Some people, like, they just don't put that effort in at all, and they're just like, yeah, I don't have to do that, the music speaks for itself. And I'm just like, there's so many artists that have the most incredible music and nobody even fucking knows who they are. The music doesn't speak for itself. It never has. Like, you have to have resources to get your music out there now more than ever, because social media and everything is throttled. Like, if you're not putting some sort of money into it, like, people aren't hearing your shit.
Yeah.
You know, it's true. If you don't put money behind anything anymore, it's just like not seen, unless you already have that giant fan base. But
even still, you know, I mean, we got 100,000 followers on Facebook, 20,000 on Twitter, and like 25,000 on Instagram. Like, it's nothing if we don't put money into it. Like Facebook, especially, like we worked so hard to build 100,000 followers on Facebook back in the day, and it doesn't mean anything. Like, you know.
Do you have a suggestion for these up-and-coming bands? Like, not necessarily give away your secrets type thing, but what do you think is like the main thing that these bands need to start doing?
You have to
transitioning from like MySpace to like 10 different social media platforms.
Totally. No, that's the thing, is that, like, you know, a lot of people don't want to fucking listen to old me, but like, you know, we were on MySpace, we were on Facebook before Facebook had artist profiles. Like, you know, we were on Instagram when it was a brand new thing. Like, we were on Twitter. Like, I got like my 9 or 10 year like Twitter anniversary the other day or something. But you know, like, so like we've kind of seen the rise and fall of so many different social medias, and it's very pay to play. Like, it's advertising, and most people don't want to look at it that way because there is the social component that you don't have to pay for. But it's almost like those, what do they call them? Freemium games, where it's like the game is free, but if you really want to like take advantage, you got to like pay into it. And that's kind of how like social media is. It's like, yeah, you can make a profile and you can generate authentic, like natural growth, but until you are, well, I mean, I guess like I can speak from some sort of experience. Like, we've been running ads and stuff for imposter syndrome, and the ads that have performed the best are the ones that are targeted at new fans, which is crazy. So like that's one thing that I would definitely like if bands are running ads on their stuff like on Facebook or on Instagram or whatever, I would super recommend that you look into not so much targeting to the fans that you've already cultivated, but to like say if you're like Outline, for instance, like, you know, I target to bands like I Prevail and like Motionless in White and like Pierce the Veil and Sleeping with Sirens and like core scene bands. So like if you have like a sound and you say you take influence from XYZ bands, then I think that you have a better return on your investment if you are targeting towards those bigger bands, because those bigger bands already have a larger fan base. And the way that music works, especially internationally, there isn't really a big discerning way to tell, like, other than bands like Bring Me the Horizon, like, you know, they're in Japan, like Of Mice and Men and Us could be parallel bands, even though Of Mice and Men is way bigger than Us. We could be on shelves next to them. And in Japan specifically, like I remember we did a physical release back in the day where we were right next to As I Lay Dying in the studio, or in like Tower Records. And it was just like kind of a interesting thing to see, because in America you see this like hierarchy that exists, and it's really easy to be like, okay, Outline and Color is not as big as this band, but maybe as big as this band. So you can be like, okay, like Outline and Color, Micah Relocate, like, you know, there's bands that are like similar size, similar sound, but they're not like Of Mice and Men, Bring Me the Horizon, you know, stadium level bands. Like, and overseas it's harder to discern that, especially in the smaller countries. So like if you've got a good music video and you've got a good song and the production is like industry quality, you know, like it can compare like sonically with other bands in the scene, if you are presenting your music and your music videos with those bigger artists, you're going to be more well received, because other people are going to see that and they're going to be like, wow, that reminds me of this band that I like, or I like that band. And they don't have this preconceived notion that, oh, that's just like a local band from Nebraska, or like, you know, they see like a cool video and a cool song and they judge you on that, instead of like, oh, my friend Jessica likes this band, like fuck Jessica, I don't like this band, you know, like
Fuck that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Makes sense.
No, so going based on that, you were saying like you go based on what your band's influences are. What were the influences for you? Or
for me,
or Outline and Color in general, but a little bit of both, I guess.
It's really different for everybody in the band, so it's kind of crazy. But like John specifically, he is like our encyclopedic like knowledge of scene bands. Like he knows every like all the big bands, of course, which like we all know all the big bands, but he knows like all of the like he knows the Rivals and the Makaris and the like and those bands are both like those are bad examples because they're biggish bands and like they're awesome, but like he knows all of the smaller bands like that aren't really getting all the love, and he's like what we just discussed, like he judges bands on like talent and merit, and he'll dig to find them and stuff. So like he's kind of where a lot of our scene influence comes from, but he's also a very like pop centric like person too. Like he listens to a lot of top 40 pop and stuff like that. And you know, CJ is like kind of a wild card. Like he listens to some crazy stuff. He listens to country. He listens to like poppy. And then like Austin is, I really couldn't even tell you. Like he's kind of all over the place too, but he likes like Run the Jewels and like some like 60s and 50s music, like shit that you wouldn't even think that like he would be into. And then me personally, like I listen to tons of hip hop. I grew up on like hardcore and metal and stuff, so that's like something that I'll just like never be able to escape. But and then I like a lot of pop music as well, just for like I appreciate the simplicity in a pop song and how far like a pop song can go when it's like beautifully crafted and resonates with like I feel like pop music is like when you take really relatable stuff with really simple music ideas, and you just like make something that's like elegantly simple, but it just has the ability to impact so many more people than like a metal song or like a song that's not going to reach the same kind of audience.
Right. To expand on that, what were the bands that I guess got you into music in general? Like, did you have like a band where you were like, shit, I want to be on stage doing that one day?
Yeah, totally. Senses Fail was like one of the first bands that I really, really loved. Oh man, I used to love Senses Fail. Those first two records that they did were like in my CD player for years and years. I really loved Blink-182's self-titled album. I loved all Blink-182, but that one self-titled album was just like so fucking awesome for me. Man, it's so hard because I listen to so many different kinds of music. Like I used to listen to like a lot of Bay Area hip hop when I was younger, and
okay.
Shoot, like I even had like a EDM phase because I was briefly a booking agent for a EDM agency, and I got my toes wet in there, and I'm just really all over the place, man. I can appreciate almost any kind of music. Like there's definitely like some kinds of country that I'm not wild about, but like I can appreciate just about anything.
Cool. What hip hop is your influence? I'm curious.
Well, like I said, back in the day, I grew up on like Bay Area hip hop, so it was like Mac Dre, Andre Nicotina, Quipto.
Right. Isn't like E40 Bay Area, or he's what?
Yeah, E40's not like one of my faves, but he's definitely like one of the OGs up there for sure. But nowadays, like I have like the Spotify hip hop rap caviar playlist on like pretty much every day, and there's a lot of stuff that I don't really fuck with on there, but I'm always like thumbing through that, and that's like kind of how I find new hip hop these days, is like through playlists like that.
What's your new hip hop you like right now? Anybody?
Oh man, there's this guy in Florida that like probably nobody even really knows about. He's called Blue Pill, BLUPILL, like one word. And he's like kind of like that Zillakami, like Scarlord, like kind of screaming, like metal inspired, like hip hop. And he's like fucking awesome. But he's been doing some stuff with like some really big EDM artists, like Say My Name and Borgore, and he's got like a couple tracks that just came out on Carnage's record label. So he's like kind of doing some cool shit. And then man, who else have I been listening to?
Have you listened to J. Cole's new songs that he just put out?
Yeah, J. Cole is like fucking, he's like one of those artists that like, I don't necessarily like vibe with all of his songs, but he's one of those guys that like everything that he does is just like undeniably good, you know, like, in fact, even the other day, me and Austin were just like on the back porch, and we're just like talking about Eminem and how like Eminem is like a crazy awesome MC, but like doesn't really play well with others very often. Like if you think back about his like discography, I can't think of like a whole lot of tracks where he collabed with an artist or a rapper specifically that they just like vibe really well together. And but Tech Nine was like a pretty cool one, and there's exceptions for sure. But we were just like, man, I bet J. Cole and Eminem would do like a fucking sick song together.
Dude, they definitely would.
Yeah.
They definitely would. Yo, J. Cole, just like the whole thing he's doing, his whole Dreamville camp that he's putting out, and all those artists, just like he's just like someone that I feel like everyone should look up to. Like that dude went from like 2010 having like that song Mr. Nice Watch and all that shit. It's like look where he came now. He's just like, I don't know. He's someone I feel like you gotta look up to. Like he made it from literally nothing.
No, and not only that, but he's like also like a fucking stand-up dude that like stands up for like the right shit. And honestly, like people ask me sometimes like, you know, like who do I look up to, or like who do I want to be and stuff. And ultimately, like I wouldn't say I want to be J. Cole, but like that I want to be somebody that like I can be proud of, you know, and somebody like that where you're just like, man, like people should look up to that person. And I have a lot of respect for anybody that uses their platform in that kind of way when they don't have to, you know, when they have like talent that exudes like they could be a piece of shit and they could still have a fucking awesome career, but still they choose to dedicate their platform to like speaking up for the right things.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I could hate your music and I will still fucking love you if that's the kind of person that you are, you know?
Right.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, especially when people gain that sort of like famous notoriety and they like end up doing it like for the right things. So,
Absolutely. I mean, I'm nothing and my band's nothing, but like anytime I start feeling any sort of ego, I always try to kick my own ass because I never want to be that guy.
very flexible. We got here. Right. Kind of on a similar note, is Outline and Color planning anything, like releasing anything in the next like couple months or 6 months?
Yeah, we have a lot. So we're putting out a cover next month, and it's this song by a Australian rapper that I promise none of our fans have ever heard. In fact, I don't even know how many people in America have heard the song, but it's like triple, quadruple platinum in Australia or some shit like that. It's like a really big song in Australia. It just didn't really touch down here. And our investor's from Australia, so he kind of turned us onto the track, and he was like, "I think you guys could do a good cover." And I mean, he was investing in us, so like we agreed with him, but like we were like, we should probably do this. So we did it, and it turned out really sick. And it's kind of more in line with the empirical like outline style. Like I'm pretty much exclusively screaming on the track, and John singing on the track, and it's kind of structured like some of our other like pop covers, you know, like similar to like the Kesha one that we did, I guess.
Okay.
And then the following month, which would be September, we've got another cover to come out. And in October, we've got a collab track with Dropout Kings that is hopefully going to come out.
Hey, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's really sick. We've been working on it for a while. I'm really excited about it. Those guys are like the best. Like they're one of my favorite bands we've ever toured with. And then if all goes well, November should be the first single for Imposter Syndrome Part 2. So we're just trying to like hit the gas. In fact, we're going to Nashville in October to record some more songs with Andrew Bayless and also Joey Bradford from The Used. So I'm really, really excited about that. The Used has always been like one of my favorite bands, and it's like a dream come true, not just for me, but also for Andrew Bayless to be able to work with Joey on these songs. So I'm really excited that like this is the first time in our career that we've been like stacking material. Like we've got like a pipeline and a release schedule for stuff, and we're still just like, let's go write some more shit. Let's go do some more shit. And we don't hate each other, and like we're excited to do it. So I don't know, it's pretty rad.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you're like we've been talking about, you're going to take advantage over everyone else because there's so many bands just not doing anything right now.
Yeah, man. I mean, we want it really fucking bad, dude. We you know, this is all we've like thought about and dreamed about since we were kids. And you know, we finally feel like with the support we have from our investor, with the you know, newly reinvigorated enthusiasm that we have, and just all of the experience and tribulations that have like led us up to this point, like we really just feel like we now have like the ability to like really go all the way if we stay focused. And it's kind of crazy how little this pandemic has affected that mentality. Like we've kind of, I mean, sure, there's been like depression and stuff like on all of our parts, just from like, you know, what everybody's dealing with, like just fucking being locked in on doors all the time. But I feel that same kind of excitement and like we can do anything we want to feeling that I did when I was like 17, 18 when we were starting this band. So like I just I don't know, I'm kind of rambling, but I'm just really excited, and I feel like we have the tools and the support that we need to like really like make some cool stuff happen, and I'm really excited to do it.
You talk about going all the way. Do you have any kind of like specific goals in mind, or kind of just like, oh, let's just see what happens? Oh, you know, I might be in Australia, I might be in Japan. Who knows? Like, I don't know.
Like, I mean, like, I guess it is like sort of an ambiguous thing, but I just want to go. I want to be able to support myself doing this most of the time. You know, like I own a small screen printing shop, and I print merch for bands and companies and stuff, and I have a couple little side hustles and stuff that pay the bills. But the ultimate goal is just to be able to do what we love and have the means to do it comfortably, you know, like I'm not looking to be like a millionaire or, you know, have like crazy money or anything like that. Like I just want to be able to support my family and be able to express myself the way that, like, you know, we want to express ourselves.
Right.
But and then maybe this probably won't be for like another year or 2 years, but do you have any bands that you would like love to tour with that you haven't already?
Oh man, it's such a depressing thought. Yeah, like I really like the band Starset. I don't know if you guys know them, but they're super sick. And our producer like kind of has some ties to the band, and like I've kind of networked with their front of house guy. He like lives in Oklahoma right now, and we've got to like, you know, talk a couple times. In fact, he's going to be doing some sound for this like live concert we're trying to do like for the internet and stuff soon.
Cool.
So like that's one band that I'd love to tour with, and they're like, I feel like they're really big. I mean, they probably pull close to 1,000 people a night at least, like in America, and that would be a great tour for Outline and Color. But I feel like that's a realistic, like, you know, like that could maybe possibly happen. But like, you know, all-time goal, like Pierce the Veil is like one of the bands that like got me in. They're not really touring these days, but like, man, if they did, it would be huge.
Right. Pierce the Veil, huh? Interesting.
Yeah.
Not what I thought the answer would have been. I don't know what I thought it would have been, but I didn't think Pierce the Veil.
I think that'd be sick. What are you talking about?
I think that'd be an awesome show. I don't know. I was expecting something like, I don't know. I guess I was expecting like a little bit of a mix of like a Pierce the Veil and then maybe a little harder band.
Like, I feel like Bring Me the Horizon would be like, just like for so many bands, it'd just be like a home run, you know? So I definitely wouldn't turn anything down like that. But I just like musically, like Pierce the Veil is one of the only bands that like I can still go back and listen to and like really, really enjoy. There's a lot of stuff that I listen to for like posterity or, you know, like nostalgia, but I have a couple Pierce the Veil tattoos like from when I was younger, and like, you know, there's still songs that like I still really fuck with.
Ooh, cool stuff.
Cool. Do you have any like hardcore bands now that you're really fucking with, or have you kind of gone more away from that scene?
I wouldn't say that I'm like away from it, but it's not. I've kind of been, and I don't want to like start any shit, but like I've kind of been disappointed with like the hardcore community, like in the way that, and not so much like I'm probably like way overgeneralizing, because like Oklahoma is kind of a repressed area and stuff, but there's just been some stuff that I've witnessed that like I don't really like gatekeeping and stuff that I'm just not like really about.
Right.
So I've been kind of dissatisfied with I'm like one of those kinds of people that like if I have like it's kind of a blessing and a curse, but like if I have a moral disposition with like a group of people or like artists or something, it's really hard for me to have genuine like affection for their art, you know. And I know a lot of people that can completely separate the artist from the art, and that's cool, but I'm not one of those people. So I'm kind of disconnected from hardcore at the moment, I guess to redact what I just said.
So let me elaborate. Let me go a little further with that. So you were saying that you can't like separate, or you have difficulty separating the artist from the art, right? So like, what's your take on bands where like, because there's a few bands where the vocalist has really just destroyed a band, right? They've done something awful that they've been called out on.
Yeah.
The whole world writes off that band, and I'm like, I feel bad because there's 3 other fucking guys that spent their life doing this shit, and now we just got to write them all off because their vocalist was a piece of shit. Like, those 3 other guys, and a lot of times, like, they don't necessarily know what's going on. Like, I think of Brand New for an example, and that the whole shit with that. So what now? Now all 3 of them lose their ship because Jesse fucked up. Like,
I know, man. It really does suck, and I feel like there's a very similar thing that happens a lot in today's cultures and a lot of different areas of life, like, and not even to it's a I don't even want to get too much into it because it's kind of a risque topic, and I don't want to like in this kind of setting like get my twisted and stuff. But there's just situations that people get into sometimes where like people don't do their homework and they do the bandwagon thing.
Right.
And when you do the bandwagon thing and you're wrong, there can be lasting impressions on somebody's life, like huge impressions, like life-changing forever impressions. And I think that the whole like trial by fire thing is kind of scary sometimes, because when you're in the right and you're a group of people or a person or somebody that doesn't have a voice, it's incredibly powerful. The bandwagon thing is powerful, and it can give people that don't have a voice, and that's super powerful. I'm not speaking against that at all, but if you don't have all the information and you just like somebody said something and there's no context, and oh man, and Papa John's probably a terrible example, but like I heard this interview where like somebody said he said the N-word, and like it turned out that he did, but like when the whole clip was played, or at least in what the clip that I saw, I don't really fucking know, I'm just using it as an example, it was used in like context, and it was like, I don't agree with saying the word ever, but the guy was like saying, this guy said the N-word, and he said the N-word or some shit like that. And it's just like hearing that and then being like, that person's a racist, end them forever, like they'll never be better, they hate everybody that's, you know, like there's just like some instances I feel like where people, not everybody has the ability to compose themselves and say exactly what it is that they mean. And sometimes people get like, I'm myself, like I get anxiety when I'm speaking in groups sometimes, and I get tongue tied sometimes, and I'm constantly afraid that I'm going to trip over my words and say something that I actually mean to say the opposite, you know, just because I'm not communicating clearly.
Right.
And I just think that something's got to change, and I don't know what it is, whether it's like people need to be more understanding and accepting of people growing, or whether I really don't know, because there's lots of cases where people are just pieces of shit and I don't have any sympathy for them. And but like I have seen like some people even relatively close to me that have kind of got like a bad rap for something that maybe wasn't 100% like a good thing for them to be involved in, but what definitely wasn't what is being portrayed, you know, like I don't know. Again, it's just like there's a lot of sexual stuff that comes up, and that's something I don't even want to touch, because like I feel like everybody that has been wronged needs to have the ability to speak up for themselves. But there's also a lot of bad people on that aren't sexual abusers that will manipulate the internet for their personal gain, and I've definitely witnessed that myself, and that gives abusers more power, and it takes power away from people that are that have a voice, that have something that they need to speak up about. And it's really, to answer your question and just sum it up, it's really a clusterfuck right now, and I don't know what the right answer is. And honestly, this is the first time in my life that like right and wrong isn't just so like blatantly evident to me. Like I don't necessarily have all the right answers or know what is perfectly right or perfectly wrong. Like I'll express myself sometimes, and then I'll talk to somebody that has an opposite opinion of me, and they'll make some really good points, whether I fundamentally disagree with their argument, but they'll make some good points that really make me think. And man, it's just, I don't know what needs to happen right now, but like the A Day to Remember stuff, like I don't know what happened with that Josh guy. I have no idea. I also know that like very limited people on the internet also have access to that information. There's like the people that were allegedly abused, and him, and people that are probably really close to them, and that's probably it. And it's just crazy to see, like, and it could totally be true. Like I'm not even like, I don't know. That's basically what I'm trying to say, is that I don't know, and nobody else really knows other than them. And when I get online and I just see thousands and thousands of people just like dumping on Josh. And if he's a piece of shit and he did all that stuff, then like bring it on. But like, let's imagine for a second that him or somebody else, because I don't want to discredit that situation. Let's just say somebody else, but let's say somebody else is in that same situation and they factually did not like do anything. They never even talked to this person. This person is just like one of those people on the internet that, you know, has a meme for, or a you know, like a anime thumbnail for their, you know, like, but like somebody with no real connections to the world, and they're putting out information. Because I've definitely seen stuff like that happen. It's like, man, that person's life is ruined. Like whether or not, like if they did it, their life should fucking be ruined. But if they didn't, their life is still ruined. And like, I don't know how we fix that. Like, I don't know. And I don't know like what people can come back from. Like, I don't know how big of a piece of shit you can be and come back from that. Like if you find the error in your ways and come to Jesus, so to speak, or whatever, and you become a better person. I don't know like what's forgivable, and I think it's kind of subjective for everybody, but man, it's a crazy time right now. It is a really crazy time.
Dude, and I agree, social media is a blessing and a curse. Like, it's great because there are a lot of people who are able to get their story out and like, you know, it's all true, and I love that. But you're right, there are some people who are going to take advantage of the situation.
Yeah, it's crazy. And sometimes it's like with the way that you can boost posts, and like, I mean, I don't want to get into politics, but like, dude, there's so much misinformation on both sides with politics. It's just like rampantly blowing through social media on the daily. And it's just like, there's so many people that are just being influenced by that on a daily basis. And oh man, it's crazy. Like, this is the misinformation, the spread of information. And it's like, if you have money, you can spread it.
That's true.
And like, I think what you were saying before, like, people are really quick to like jump on a bandwagon just because like, and it could be as simple as like, oh, my friend Jessica hates a day to remember, and now like I have to too, you know? So it's like,
right, totally. And
everyone just kind of like pile onto something without doing their homework, as you mentioned. So
right. And in some cases, like, I don't even know. I mean, what homework can you even really, I don't know. It's just the whole trial by fire on the internet. There's certain situations, like when people have like receipts and like, you know, they come with a whole case and they make like a thought, or a compelling, like, you know, like, this is what happened to me, and like, here's what happened. Like, I have so much respect and like the bravery for those people have. But, you know, even those people face like, on the flip side of it, like, I see tons of people that like are huge fans of like abusers or alleged abusers, and they're just like blatantly, flagrantly defending them with no information like whatsoever, like attacking them, like the blood on the dance floor kind of people, you know? Like, I don't know if you guys have watched like any of the like Chris Hansen stuff with him, but it's crazy. And like these people, they try to like speak up for themselves, and then the fan base just destroys them. And it's like I mean, that's kind of what I'm trying to get at, is that like, it's so fucked up on both sides. Like, the people that are like advocating for people are fucking up. The people that are fucking up are fucking up. It's just like, I don't know. And I don't know how you fix that. Like, there's no like education for like online etiquette. Like, I don't know, like,
because it's never monitored, so like there is no online etiquette.
Yeah,
I mean, there's what we think there should be, but there's no guidelines.
And if it was monitored, I feel like people would freak out too. Like, oh, I can't say what I really think because people are monitoring my shit. Like, it's literally like, there's no right or wrong, or there's no right in this question. Like, it's all options are fucked.
Yep.
That's why hardcore music sucks, basically.
I don't want to say that, because I
not that all started with hardcore music.
Well, it was like, I mean, like, there was a part of my life where I was just like an angry fucking like adolescent youth, and like that was what spoke to me the most, was like music that like encapsulated those feelings. But now that I'm older and I see like where, like, when I was young, it was just like teenage angst and stuff. But like, when I see like grown ass men like making like hateful ass, like, oh, I'm gonna cut your throat, like kind of music. It's like, whoa.
It weirded me out when they're like I don't know, like Good Charlotte and like all like Simple Plan. They're like, I don't know, they make songs that are like for teenagers. I don't know. It's like I was because they're like 30 whatever years old, and I'm just like. Like, do you not have any
plans in like their 40s now?
Exactly. No, that's just super weird to me. Like, I mean, like, I want to write music that connects with people, all people, but like, I don't want to do it by like talking about like trendy shit like TikTok or like like.
You just graduated high school like what, like 20 years ago? Like, what do you?
Yeah, no, for real. Like, were those really the best years of your life? Like, are you still writing about them?
I think a band like Blink-182 has done a good job over the years of like growing up and having their music grow up with them.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
They stopped singing about the same bullshit they did with like Enema of the State, and like you look and listen to their most recent album, it's very mature compared to what they had. But some bands just can't do that.
No,
you just can't get out of that shit.
It's super weird. But I mean, some bands kind of put themselves in a box. Like you guys remember that Ghost Town band?
Mm-hmm.
Man, I love that band, and I think the singer of that band is the subject of some allegations right now. But like they wrote songs about like monsters and vampires and like creepy shit, and it was really fucking cool. And like all the songs had a vibe. But then they put out like 2 albums, and it's like, all right, so like, what else do we write about monsters and vampires? And you know, like it's kind of weird. Like a band like Ice Nine Kills, they can just like focus on another like horror movie or something. But like when it was that, I don't know, it was kind of weird. It was really pigeonholed. But I loved the music that they're putting out. But at a certain point, it was just like, oh fuck, like what else can we do with this?
Yo, Ice Nine Kills is an interesting band to me too.
Yeah, totally.
They're such a
all their covers on like Pop Goes, like Punk Goes Whatever are like my favorite thing. All of their covers. I think they did Animals by Maroon 5. I was like.
That's so awesome.
Like, they're a band that just like blew up in the past like 15 months, I would say. Like ever since they got banned from House of Blues or whatever that was, I felt like that skyrocketed them. You saw that all over the internet. Like that was a big talk. Ice Nine Kills banned for life from this venue, and then out of nowhere, people were talking left and right. They were getting fucking shows left and right, festivals. They were just out of nowhere.
And they're one of those bands that's been around forever and was like never really that big, and then they finally just like really took off.
Like, I told you guys, they're really good.
Yeah, I'm stoked for them. I didn't love that song that they did with Joyner Lucas, but I thought it was like the coolest thing in the world that they did it. You know, like who else has like a front runner MC like in like post-hardcore metalcore music like that?
Dude, I'm loving that lately. Like, you know the band Straight from the Path?
Yeah, dude, I love Straight from the Path.
all over fucking hip hop songs.
Yeah, dude. See, that is one of the things that I really do still love about hardcore is hardcore and hip hop are like low key, high key, very, very much entangled with each other. Even though the people that try to like not say that they totally are. Like even like the stylistic like trends and shit that pop up in hardcore, they all come from like hip hop culture and shit, like the shoes and the like I don't know, just like how cloudy stuff has kind of worked its way into hardcore culture. It's really cool in that way. Like I like bands like how Trash Talk will like write like a fucking 1 minute song or like a 1 minute and 20-second song, and like there's tons of hip hop artists that's the wave right now. It's just like write a fucking minute and 30-minute and 50-second song that like people are gonna play like 5 times in a row.
Right. No, that's a big thing now too, where songs are so fucking short.
It's crazy.
Like I love it and hate it.
Yeah, same. Like there's some songs that I really love it, and then there's other where I'm just like, damn, you totally could have thrown on another verse on here.
Yeah, agreed. But like that's another thing. Like, do you find this with? I mean, I find this in hip hop, maybe not so much in like the metal or hardcore and that scene, but no one seems to have an attention span anymore to listen to like a 4-minute song.
Well, that's why like artists always suggest like, oh, don't like release a full EP, do it in like tracks and then release it, because like people don't have like the attention span for it. But like, I don't know. I just like I'm still kind of like mixed about that.
I'm a big album person. I like listening to an album front to back. But
I think that. Well, how old are both of you?
I'm 28.
24. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. See, like we're all like, I mean, I'm 30. I'm 31. So we're all like kind of in a similar area. I feel like we kind of transcend the gap a little bit. But like a lot, like my wife has foster adopted brothers, or I guess they're all adopted. They're not foster anymore. But my wife's family fostered little brothers that are now adopted,
Yeah.
and they're from the ages of like, one of them's like 3, 4, and then the oldest one's like 17, 18, and they're all over the place, but like the way that they all consume content is the same, and it's like it's in smaller condensed pieces. But for the music industry specifically, I think that the reason a lot of bands are adopting the single strategy is just that it's easier to get traction on Spotify and other, iTunes, etc. when you're releasing singles, because you have the ability to playlist pitch singles. If you upload an EP or a full length album to like DistroKid or whatever, you're only going to get to pitch one single for it. So like
that's why like people like space it out. I'm just like, oh, just release the whole thing. It'd be cool.
I know, but I mean, like, really, for right now, it's such a pivotally huge thing for bands to be doing it this way, because it's what's allowing bands and artists to be self-sufficient and not have like record labels and stuff like that. And the more that bands can lean into that, I think the sooner the record industry that we know it is going to like collapse, and it's already collapsing, and this whole pandemic is only assisting in that. But there's a lot of shady shit and bad stuff that's not good in the music industry that needs to get out of here, and I think that starts with giving power back to the artists.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
Absolutely agree.
Kind of weird tangent, but back in the days before the Big Sick, did you have any favorite like show memories? Or I've been saying the Big Sick, and people have been like really like on top of it, so I'm gonna keep coin that phrase now.
Yeah, keep rolling with that.
Yeah, any like favorite like memories from like a show or anything, big or small, from like the past 10 years? Right?
Totally. Lots of memories. Australia and Japan both were like insane. Like Japan was really cool because it was so foreign feeling. Everything is so different. The language barrier, like everything you see is in another language. But people are super friendly, so it's like a place that you don't feel like it feels foreign, but you feel comfortable. So I really enjoyed Japan as a whole, just because it was a very broadening experience. Australia was really cool too, because it also feels foreign, but everybody speaks English, and everybody is just the crazy nicest, friendliest people you've ever met. And I don't know, like I got to take pictures with kangaroos and koalas and cool shit like that.
What's been like the craziest thing that's ever happened at a show for you guys?
Craziest thing that's ever happened at a show. The craziest thing that I can think of, just like right off the top of my head, we did this tour. It was like a 6 or 7 day run with the Plot and You and Gift Giver. Mm-hmm. And we were not a perfect musical fit for that tour, but it was right when like Plot started releasing more like commercial sounding stuff, like the less heavy kind of stuff. So like there's kind of like some similarity. Like we got some fans off the run, but there was the last show that we played was at this venue in Ventura called like Ventura Music Hall or Ventura Music Cafe. And it was like this like steel building. It was like 150 cap room that was like more deep than wide. And the sound booth was like up top, and there was like a ramp to the right of the stage that like went up to the top. And so we were playing after Gift Giver. So Gift Giver opens the show, and they're like heavy as fuck, and like people are like fucking people up in the pit, and like people are bloody and shit after they play, and it's lit. And we start setting up, and like Trevor starts checking his mic, and there's this guy in the back of the room, like dead center, and the whole room is packed. Like there's like 150 people, maybe even more in this room. It was like packed to the walls, and this dude in the back is like talking shit to Trevor, like telling him he's like a pussy and like just like making fun of him from the back, and like every time he checks his mic. And Trevor used to do this thing where like he'd put the mic down and he'd get like a lot of energy and like get the front of the crowd really excited before we'd start playing, you know, by talking to them directly and shit, and getting them like amped and stuff. And this guy is just heckling him from the back of the room. And anyway, like our tour manager Sinjin comes up to me and Trevor like right before the set starts, and he's just like, "You got to do something crazy, man." and we're just like, "What?" It's like, "That guy's gonna cause problems, man. He's talking shit. He's not gonna stop. Like he's gonna be talking in between every song. Like you got to fucking do something, bro. You got to do something crazy." And Trevor's just like, okay. So like me and Trevor just start like stomping around and getting angry, and like I'm like, there's like this ramp next to the soundboard, and I'm like running up and down the ramp, like stomping, like getting angry, like jumping on the band, like the hand railing, and like kicking shit. And Trevor's kicking shit, and he puts his mic on the ground, and he just like looks at that guy and like points at him, and he just like, before the set's even started, he just starts punching himself in the face. And like blood, like I don't think he broke his nose, but he definitely fucked it up, and blood just starts like streaming down his face. And like we started, oh fuck, I just unplugged my headphones.
This is intense as that, exactly.
We start like the song and like our intros, like we got like one of those like hypey, like bouncy intros, and the samples are kicking in. And like Trevor like parts the crowd, and he like jumps down into the crowd and stretches the mic as far as it would go, which was like 5 feet away from that guy. And like the crowd just like separates, and it's just Trevor and that guy. And he's like keeps punching his face, and like blood is all over his face, all over his shirt. And he's just like, "You want to kick my ass? Come and kick my ass!" And this dude is just like, "Fuck this, I'm out of here." And he turned around and walked out, and we just like played the rest of our set. But we were just like riding adrenaline for the whole rest of the show because of that.
What was the reaction of the rest of the crowd?
I mean, you know, we were like starting a set, so like I couldn't really like observe, but like everybody just kind of like filled in the gap that was left when he got back on the stage, and we had a great set. It was awesome. It was like the best like crowd reaction we got the whole run.
You probably gained 150 new fans that fucking every single person there.
He's like, "Spot, you now have 74 new listeners on Spotify."
Like imagine doing that shit now. Like that would be on like alternative press right away. Like,
yeah, we would be canceled.
How many years ago was this?
2016, I guess.
Oh, so not that long ago. Wow. Damn.
Cool stuff.
That's some balls. I wouldn't do that. I'd be like, "Nah, dude, you win. I'm not gonna fucking beat myself."
We're in a blog. We're not gonna like. The craziest thing we're gonna do is like have 20 people in a Zoom call.
It's just like riding on adrenaline. That's a crazy high.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. There was this other show that we played that it wasn't quite as crazy, but it's kind of in a different way. We played the New England Metal Showcase at South by Southwest.
Oh, shit. Cool.
So it was like Harm's Way. Shit. I can't see the laminate behind me, but it's like Harm's Way. Oh man, Code Orange, like
yeah,
just like hardcore metal. We were the only band on the entire thing that had a singer.
Wow.
And we got up on stage to like start sound checking, and our singer started checking the mic, and like people were just like pissed in the crowd. But it ended up like, I mean, like I'm not gonna say that like people thrashed for us, but like there were some people in the crowd that like dug the music, like, but we were like terrified to play because of the people in the crowd, and also like the bands that we were playing with were like, "Oh, we're gonna fucking die today."
That's wild. Now you got a story to tell.
What's that?
Now you got a story to tell.
Yeah.
God, that's awesome. Jeez.
Damn, dude. I still can't believe that he punched himself in the face. I'm still thinking about that.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. He's
Fuck.
It was pretty badass. It was pretty badass.
You asked him after, and he's like, "Wait, what? I did that?" He's like,
I mean, it wasn't totally out of character for him to do some crazy ass shit, but like, it was definitely the timing was very well executed.
That's awesome.
So I know you've been on with us for like over an hour at this point. So I got 2 more questions for you. This one I just really wanted to ask and see your opinion on this. So you said in the beginning of this that you guys are starting to branch out a little more into more of a like pop sound and a little more commercial sound, right? Do you find that like Eat Your Heart Out is your most streamed song on Spotify? Do you find like
He's like, I hate that song.
No, that's my first question. Like, do you get sick of playing a song like that? And do you find like you need to kind of like compensate for that? That being your, like, I don't know, biggest song, I guess. Like, do you find that now, like, is that why you added that one song onto the new EP, like just due to that, or like
okay.
you kind of chase that reception?
Sure. Well, here's the thing about Eat Your Heart Out, and this is like one of like the funniest things in Outline and Color history. But we wrote Struggle in the studio. Well, we wrote it before we went to the studio. We recorded it in the studio, and we got the mixes back. And everyone in the band, except for me, wanted to cut that song from the record. They said it was They said it was the worst song on the whole record, and that it wasn't good enough to be on the record, and that it was trash, and blah blah blah. So we turned in the record, and the label and our management hit me back, and they're like, "So we've discussed it, and we think that Eat Your Heart Out should be the lead single for the record." And I was just like, "What the fuck? So do I." But I talked to the band, and they were adamantly against it, like so against it, and like they still weren't even convinced that we shouldn't take it off the album. And there were 14 tracks on the album, so it was like something that we could kind of do and get away with it.
Right.
So I was just like, okay, like, look, the band doesn't want to do this. Like, they don't like that song. They don't think it's good. And I don't know if you know anything about our tumultuous label relationships, but they basically said, fuck you, and they did it anyway. And like the rest is kind of history. Like, it blew up, and yeah, like it's still like streams like 100,000 plus streams a month. Like it is to this day like consistently competing for the top slot. You know, like singles will briefly like move past it, but you know, it's got like 4 or 5 million plays on it. It's hard to pass that.
Do you find like you're kind of chasing that same reception now, because like it's very different sound than what you're going for now, correct? I mean, it's mostly a hardcore song. Yeah,
well, I mean, I like I guess what I was getting at is that like we weren't even trying, like the band didn't even want that to be like a representation of that record.
Was everyone kind of pissed with how much it blew up? Or maybe not you, but everybody else?
Like,
well,
I told you so.
Yeah, like Casey specifically like really hated that song, and I know that he definitely, we've never spoken about it specifically, but it was definitely like one of the like I told you so moments in our career. But like I actually love playing that song, and me and John have like a really cool like thing that like we've kind of like reworked it for like live, you know, and we stack harmony like on all the choruses and like on a lot of stuff, and like I feel like we do something really cool with it, like that's a little different than what we used to do. And I still really like playing the song, but like CJ fucking hates it. Like he's just, oh, I hate that song, it's our least favorite song, but I really enjoy playing it.
Is this song that has to be in your set pretty much because it's such a high stream song? Like you kind of have to play it every time?
Yeah, I mean, we usually put it in the set. With this new stuff, I don't know how much longer it'll stay in there. We're really trying to like do a full pivot where we play mostly new songs. We'll still play some of the hits and stuff, but hits. But you know what I mean.
They are hits. You have 5 million streams on that song. It's a hit.
Yeah, I mean, by post-hardcore standards, I guess. But you know, like I'm really proud of all the music that we've made like over the years, you know, and be it may that I've moved around in my capacity in the band. I really am proud of all the music that we've done through, you know, I've had some sort of involvement in every single release that we've ever had. So, you know, as much as I loved everybody's favorite stuff to be our new stuff, because that's what we're excited about, it doesn't like hurt my feelings at all when people are like, oh, Struggle's my favorite album, or Jury of Wolves is my favorite album. It's like, that's cool, man. Like, I was there and I remember all those times, and those albums will always be there for you to listen to. So like, don't worry about it. But like, even if we were to go and try to recreate some of those albums, like those same people would be like, this doesn't sound the same, or it sounds exactly the same. Or like, you know, it's like people think that they know what they want to hear, but they don't really know until it's in their ears, you know?
Yeah.
And like people can resonate with like different phases of your band, right? It doesn't have to be like the new stuff. So it's cool that like you're like branching out into different kind of like, not genres, but different like kind of stylings, but people can choose to resonate with whatever they want to do.
Totally. I think that a lot of people don't really understand or aren't really aware of the fact that people tend to have like this part of their adolescence where they really cling to a specific kind of music or a sound or an artist. And like, that's like one of the moments in their life that like shapes their music like tastes for the rest of their life. And a lot of people don't even really realize that there's like an emotional connection that happens. And it's like everybody wants to be like, oh, the music that I listen to is good because I listen to it, you know, and it must be good because I listen to it. But in reality, it's just like, it's all personal taste. Like it's all, you know, there's some stuff that's arguably good or like better produced or, you know, whatever you want to call it. But you know, there's not a whole lot of just like terrible music out there. It's just like mostly people's personal opinions.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we've had you on for over an hour. It's not going to keep you, but we end every interview with the same question. So like I said in the beginning, we have a very diverse fan base.
Mm-hmm.
So what we've been asking everyone is if you could pitch, like if you had like 15 seconds to 20 seconds where we were like, all right, sell, outline, and color. Like what would your not sell it, but what could you say in that quick short seconds that would get somebody who's like a reggae rock fan to be like, okay, I'll check this out?
Okay, well, as I said earlier, we're a band that has grown up on all different kinds of music. Like everybody in the band has a different upbringing, and I don't think that anybody discriminates against any kind of music. So if you're the kind of person that has an open mind towards any kind of music, then I think that we have something that's for you. It might not be every song, it might not be every album, but like I think if you got an open mind, like, you know, I feel good about our songs. Like they're strong songs. Like there's something in there that's there for you if you're willing to look for it.
Oh yeah, I like that answer. We get a lot of good answers, but sometimes we get very generic answers. I like that. Like, seemed like you had that shit planned. I like this.
I actually freaked out when I heard you describing the question. I was like, oh, fuck.
Dude, that was one of the better answers we've got. At least I think so. Nice.
Yeah.
All right, Will, thank you so much for coming on with us and spending the first 2 hours of your Sunday with us.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys having me, and we really appreciate the review you guys did for us as well.